What it do there, gents? Just popping in. I was just thinking about a few things, and something that was sticking out in my head is, it's like no matter what you do in life, because you hear older people talking about regret when you're a kid. So, and they kind of instill that fear in you, like, you really don't want to, have regrets. Like the way that people talk about regret, you're like, ooh, I don't, I do not want that to. I don't want to be that to be my fate. It's like no matter what you do, no matter what, you will have regrets. You will have decisions that you made in the past that you regret. I mean, and there's different kinds of regret, but like, for example, just I don't want to say being ungrateful, but just not appreciating something as much as you should have. And then, you regret that in the future when you don't have it. Or like, I remember when I was a kid, my dad inherited a pool table from his grandfather, which was my great grandfather. I found the pool balls earlier, and I remember when we threw the damn thing away. We had it for decades. My whole childhood, we had this pool table, and it was such a cool. A lot of people don't realize, but a pool table is pretty much just a gigantic piece of slate rock, huge, and it's thick and heavy. But and I just feel like, damn, I wish I had lobbied on that pool table's behalf a little bit more because it was one of those pool tables too. It was almost like a one of the pool tables at a pay for or per game basis where you put the quarters in, then you play, and all the pool, how all the pool balls pour out. It was just like that, but they didn't get locked away. They all just automatically came to that area where you pull all the balls out. And the rack had a little slot for it, but instead of having pockets for each pocket, except for having little socks, it had ramps. So you didn't have to go to every pocket and pull the balls out. They all and it was all. What was cool about it is that took uh, a really skilled tradesman, a highly skilled tradesman like a carpenter. I'm pretty sure. I think there's a term for a pool table maker because it had all the chutes and all kinds of stuff underneath that slate rock. Um, some of it was particle board, but I think, or shoot, now I'm not even so sure because I've seen so many pool tables in my life. I could be mixing it up, but it was an old pool table. It was. I mean, these pool balls are. Phew, these are some old pool balls. I have a cue ball and the 8 ball, and at least I have these, and I remember when I was younger, I never was a keepsake person. I never really understood it. But it's not until like I've gotten older, you don't keep things to remember somebody by. You keep things just in a bundle or you keep things in storage, and then when you go through stuff later, you find something that's meaningful, that has meaning in it for you. Like when whoever saved these balls when they were thrown out, maybe I did, I don't know, maybe one of my brothers did, maybe my dad did, I have no idea. But when I pulled them out, they didn't mean anything to me at the time. And it came with cues, it came with the triangle. I mean, and this stuff had been passed down through my family, or it was my great grandfather's, and he had like my it was my dad's mother's father, and he was quite the patriarch from what I understand. And it's that kind of stuff, and it amongst a lot of other stuff. But it's like no matter what you do, nobody lives a perfect life. Nobody is completely 100% content with every decision they made, or every how they behaved in every situation. And anybody who says that anybody who denies that fact is lying to you. They're lying to you. It's that simple. They're lying to you because there's just no way to, like old Hank Williams said, I'll never get out of this world alive. You know what I mean? You, you just can't, you're not going to get out unscathed. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have regrets. No matter what you do, you're going to have regrets. You'd have regrets that you didn't have anything to regret if that weren't the case. I mean, straight up, it's we're human, and that's just one of those silly things about us. We are quite a silly animal, I want to say. But I stumbled across a few things, a few keepsakes that I forgot about, and I'm really glad that I kept them. For what reason I don't even not even sure. But like I got an old digital, an old 80s, original 80s Seiko timepiece. It's a Seiko alarm chronograph. It's got 4 buttons, and it's got the Sunday and gold, and then the rest of the days: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sat. And yeah, this is my father's from the 80s right here. Tell me that isn't the coolest thing. I mean, I actually have a few of my father's watches from when he was he was younger than me in the 80s. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, I don't even know why I was thinking that he was older than me. No, shoot, I'm in my mid 30s. He was born in 60, so um, already I'm older than he ever was in the 80s, which is nuts because even when I look at old pictures of him in the 80s, I still think of somebody much older than I. But I've got this old school. It's kind of a dress watch, an old school Xanadu, um, genuine leather wristwatch. Uh, oh wow, and this is like gator or lizard. And I remember my mom had a small one. I don't know what happened to that, but my mom had one of these. It was a very elegant. It was exactly like this, exactly, with the genuine leather um, wristband but it was much smaller, much more delicate, much more feminine. It was very. I mean, it was probably, you know, less than half the size of this one. I mean, I believe it was oval. I want to say it was oval. It was very tiny. It was almost, it was just big enough that you could put like, I mean, it could have been a ring, basically. It was the size of a big ring, but very elegant, very thin, so very slim. And but she had a matching one, but she didn't wear it all that often. I mean, she would wear it, but not super often. But it's so weird how, especially with watches, because nowadays they don't exist. It becomes superfluous. It's a superfluous item. And then I have a pulsar, and this has a very 80s look to it, I want to say, to my mind anyway. But it's very neat. Very neat watch. Both of them. I think my dad had halfway decent taste in watches. Stainless steel, Hong Kong. That's neat. That's neat right there. An old. I mean, this is the 80s. Japanese stuff made in the 80s in Japan is well made stuff for sure. 100%. They did not make garbage in not in the 80s. I mean, back then, I wasn't born in the 80s. But when I was a kid, the only stuff that was made in China were little injection molded dinosaur toys and stuff. That is all they made. I that all the stupid little throwaway toys that I had that you would get. They just seem to be like the loose toys that would collect at the bottom of a toy bin, and they would always be super simple, injection molded, just kind of some crappy silicone pot rubber, not pot metal, but it's like pot rubber, where it's just like some crappy urethane or some crappy plastic, basic polyurethane or something. I don't know what it was, but I just remember. Oh, or like the little lizards, like little fake lizards or little fake snakes, uh, stuff like that, or like a T-Rex that you would play with as a kid, the bendy ones. All that stuff was made in China. Nothing of value was made in China. I feel like like everything that we owned that was of value was none of that stuff had a made in China. It wasn't in because I remember the made in China, that was more of an injection molded thing. It was like it would be on the like the underbelly of a dinosaur, and there wouldn't be a sticker. In other words, it would be on the underside. And something interesting too. It says Hong Kong with a B behind it. And remember, in the 80s, Hong Kong was a British protectorate, or it was a part of the British Commonwealth. That wasn't until just a few years ago that Hong Kong switched over to being run by the Chinese, which is such a shame because that city kind of. I remember when I was a kid, that was a pop culture city. Like movies would take place there, and like Jackie Chan movies. Those were when I was a kid. I remember watching those all the time, going to Blockbusters with my dad and picking out. I remember we for like many weekends in a row, we went and got Jackie Chan movies. I think the I don't want to say the first one we saw was High Noon with him and Owen Wilson, but that was that's when he really started getting popular. But he was in something. Oh, Rush Hour, Rush Hour. That's right. He was in Rush Hour, and then we started. We were like, oh man, that was cool. That was a good movie. And we ended up going through like his whole library. Rumble in the Bronx. That was a good one. Legend of the Drunken Master. That like the one from the 90s was so cool. And then you had and later on in life I seen the other one, the old one, the Drunken Master from the 70s, where he didn't it wasn't it was subbed over, which was a really neat one. If you haven't seen that one, you got to catch it. It was a great movie. He gets trained by his drunk of an uncle. He's an old drunk bum. So High was his name, and he teaches him the the fighting style of the eight drunken gods. But that I just was just thinking how neat that is, to that and gosh, this is so 80s, so 80s. It's nothing special. It's not like an oyster or a submariner or anything like that. It does say um, water 100-meter resist quartz. So up to 100 meters. 100 meters, yeah. But it's, like I said, it's a pulsar stainless steel and water resistant. And it's, you can tell it's freaking well made, actually. And it's super high quality steel because this is almost a 50-year-old watch. It's at least a 40-year-old watch. And it's almost like, I would say it doesn't have any corrosion on it. It's almost like it's tarnished a little bit, like it's silver. To that, I mean, seriously, like that's how it comes off. And but it's awesome, and I love having keepsakes like that. Or now that I've gotten older, all of a sudden they've started to mean something to me. And I just noticed on this one, this Seiko, uh, it's still got one of the stickers on the inside of the clasp. I didn't even notice that before. I'm just kind of wondering where this one was made. Water resist. Oh, Japan. This one was made in Japan. That's awesome. I really like this one. This one is really neat. It's just so, you know, that's so retro is what that is. I mean, it has that classic 80s. God dang it! I'm trying to get. I wish you. Oh, there it is. Ooh, there it is. Damn you. Why is it doing me like this? Oh, there we go. Isn't that neat? I love it, man. It's such a cool watch. Such a cool watch. And the fact that my father wore it for years, and before I was born, he got this watch, or he bought this watch, or I don't even know how he come by it exactly, but I know he come by it, and it's so neat. It's got the four buttons on the side, and I remember him telling me that it was a classic, that it could be worth something one day uh, because it was made in Japan. And the funny thing is I remember when I was a kid, Japan was acceptably it was it like we considered Japanese stuff quality, somewhat, but it was the made in the USA stuff that was really quality, like a Schwinn bicycle, I had a Schwinn made in Chicago from when I was a kid. It was an American made Schwinn. It was so cool. Um, and I don't know where this one was made. Maybe it was Italy. I don't know, but it does say genuine leather. But my dad. I'm a lefty actually. My father is a lefty, and my mother was a lefty. Neither of my brothers. They're both right-handed. But for some reason I was a lefty like my dad's mother was a lefty too, so the left-handedness runs strong in my family, and both of my mother's sisters were lefties, or both of my mother's sisters are lefties, and actually her older sister, they all three of them spent 10 years of their lives in England. My grandfather was stationed there in the it's funny, I got all these keepsakes I just found. My grandfather, he's a major in the Air Force, retired major in the Air Force. He was a Mustang too, so he entered as a an airman. He did not enter as an officer. He he did 10 years as enlisted, and I think he was a sergeant something or other, and they came to him and asked him if he wanted to go to officer candidate school, and he said, "Hell yeah!" So he did, and he got through officer candidate school by the skin of his teeth. And anyway, yeah, they lived in England, and they tried to teach, or they forced my aunt to. They would not allow her to write with her left hand. Um, and she writes with her right hand to this day, actually, because they forced her. She's the older one of the three sisters, so I think my mom's younger sister was like in kindergarten or something, and they moved to the base. My mom said the first time her little sister came home and called my grandmother Mum. The first time she called her Mum, they were like, "We're going to the base. We're moving to the base." Um, and and that's kind of why England's kind of pretty important to me, because a lot of that stuff colored my childhood. My mother, the candy she liked was always English candy, like Cadbury Flakes. Most Americans don't know what a Cadbury Flake bar is, but they're just amazing. And every time that I see them for sale, I remember there's an Indian guy at a 7-Eleven a few miles away from my house that he was from England, so he had them stocked in his candy section. It's super random, and I would go out of my way to get those flakes because uh, uh, British chocolate is not like American chocolate. It's not Hershey's, baby. It's not even close to her. It's it melts in your mouth. It melts so quickly in your mouth. And walnut whips. Uh, all kinds of different candies that my mom. The Cadbury buttons, I think they're called. All kinds of different candies that we got to try, and also on top of that, um, you know, my mom had a special affinity for things English or for things that reminded her of her childhood, like uh, uh, the butter dish that we used when I was growing up was it was a Tupperware butter dish, but it was an English Tupperware butter dish, and it was for um, it was because English butter it doesn't come in four sticks. It comes in two slabs. It comes in the same box, of course, but instead of being cut into four or quarters, it's only cut in half. So when you put out butter this on this dish, the dish had to be twice as wide, but you had twice as much butter. And it had a cover, of course, uh, to keep bugs and stuff away from it. I'm down here in Florida, and yeah, I know a lot of people don't realize, but you can't just leave butter out forever down here. It doesn't matter how clean your house is. When it rains, big old palmetto bugs, they get into your house because they're trying to get up out of the rain. It's just one of those things. I mean, you can't stop them. If they want to get in, they're going to get in. You try not to bring them in is what is the deal down here. Anyway, but yeah, my mom, grew up in England, and so, but that butter tray, that meant a lot to her, that Tupperware butter tray. And for a long time, she couldn't, until she found Kerrygold, uh, we didn't use that butter tray very much. I mean, I remember it being around, but, we would use it like on like Thanksgiving, stuff like that. But once she started getting that Kerrygold, she's like, oh, I get to use my butter tray again. Which is pretty neat. I like Kerrygold, and I always thought it was pretty cool we kind of got a taste of how we got a taste of something different. And my grandmother bought a ton of china. Like I remember when I was a kid at their house, the whole wall on the garage being just like stacks of china. She had here's shoot, I got a piece of it right here. That's funny. With nothing. Yeah, it's just plain. It's white with kind of what the hell? Yeah, I had like a sandwich this morning, with the rivlets. But and this I think this was kind of like that was an everyday piece of china. And I think it was because from what I understand, it was because like that was it doesn't have any designs, but it wasn't like a collection that was really sought after. Um, we had a couple different like we had a holiday set, and we had an everyday set. My mom didn't get that till later. And the set they got, the set we had for every day, they got for their wedding. And over the years, it just one plate. Every couple years, a plate would get broken, and and they were really nice sets of china too, because they were English. Of course, they had saucers. You had teacups, kick-ass teacups. We used to have coddled eggs. A lot of American people don't know what a coddled egg is, but my mom had china piece. She had all the crockery that came in a whole set. And coddled eggs, it's like a little cup, and they have one egg and two egg coddled egg cups, and you'd put the butter and the egg in the cup, and then you would boil it all, or you'd close the cup up, and then you'd put it in boiling water. They were delicious. Absolutely loved it, because you could add spices to the egg and stuff, and especially if you had two eggs, you could like layer them and like, oh, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. Loved it. And my mom made shepherd's pie a little different, but it colored my childhood, and I definitely, I've never been there, of course, but my mom spent 10 years of her life there, so a lot of that stuff has some meaning to her. And she's also a bit of an Anglophile, or more of an Anglophile than I am. And she's like my go-to when it comes to when there's something I want to know about like living there. And I remember, and actually a funny story. I remember her telling me, or my grandfather telling me, he had a chauffeur. He was he retired as a major from the Air Force, and he actually flew 3,000 combat hours over Vietnam, as a navigator. Matter of fact, I didn't know I had this an old air navigation, from the does that, I mean, it looks like a recreation, but it is not. This is not a recreation. This is the real deal. Look at that. Look at that. Tell me that isn't cool. That looks like a movie prop, man. It's got my grandfather. He had a, like, he kept stuff like a like it was like he had a library, so he put his name and his damned uh, address on it. Kind of goofy. But yeah, July 1st, 1973. So he was that's when he was going through training, I guess, Nav Air. Or, he also did teaching. Before he became an officer, he did a lot of training. He did a lot of teaching courses. Wow. This is so neat. Wow. Like, look at I mean, that valley there. And like all the illustrations, it like explains the contour lines of maps. Oh wow, it tells you the elevations or the different colors for oh man, this is so neat. And what's cool is I actually have a lot of his instruments, like the slide rulers and the stuff that had the little wheels with all the numbers. I've got one of those, and it's in a real leather case. I mean, it's badass. It was an actual. It was something that you would put over aeronautical charts or nautical charts, and I guess that would be aeronautical charts, and it was a way to because they went off a dead reckoning. They did not have GPS, so everything was yeah, it was kind of similar to that, but not quite. But they had to. It was somewhat like dead reckoning, but like these calipers or that compass there, that particular, I have two of those, both made in Germany. Extremely well made, extremely well made. And he was the navigator. Ah, this is what I'm talking about. It's like that, but it has, and it's so that you can write. This is like a clear plastic or glass, but it's frosted, so it's clear, translucent, but you can write on it. But it also has something that slides behind it too, like a ruler or something like that. But this is neat, like so cool. Oh wow, and I didn't realize that he wrote in it, or that he circled stuff in there. Very smart man though. He was very intelligent, Jeez, look at that. That is cool. An old diagram with that basically shows you what the inside, or some of the instrumentation looked like on the inside of these planes back in the day. Oh wow, look at that distance. Now, I remember when I was a kid too, at his house. You thought it was a clock, but it wasn't a clock. It was an altitudinometer, or whatever, or altitudinometer. I don't know what the hell it was, but it said altitude on it. And it was cool. It was like a black clock, but it was the altitude, not but anyway, it just it colored a lot of my life, and that's kind of why I have a sweet spot for England. And I remember my grandfather telling me that his chauffeur took him. He was a major golf player, big time, loved golf, But he went to Scotland many a time. Had his chauffeur take him over to Scotland on the way home, so he could hit 9 holes at a Scottish golf course. He really, he said he golfed Turnberry. He golfed the other one in Scotland, the one that's the I don't know if it's Turnberry and another one that's the oldest one in the world, but he golfed both of them, and he had an MG that he bought there, and he bought it special, an MGB. He bought it special with the steering wheel on the or on the left side on where we have it, and they brought it back with them. He had it shipped back. It was like an aquamarine color with like a black top and black interior. It was his baby. He had that till he died. He bought that in 1973, 74, brand new, only owner. Won many classic MG shows with that MG, and he restored one. It's like this ugly wasp yellow one that he got, and he stripped it down and repainted it burgundy or maroon, like with the metallic flecks in it. And he won several first prizes for restorations on that car as well. So, and he had his garage was badass. He had, I mean, you got to have tools to restore a vehicle. So he had it all, man. He had it decked out. Had an awesome tool set that I actually had it for a long time after he died, and for some reason I gave it back to my grandmother, and then it was gone. I don't know what I was thinking. It was a full set, It was, it wasn't mine though, I guess you could say. But it was a great time to grow up. The '90s. It was such a good period. Such a good period. I watched Home Alone recently, and I was thinking, wow, they just straight up don't make movies for kids like this anymore that truly are kid focused. Because when I watch the movie, I'm like they really. He takes his. It's funny because he's causing trouble, and all he's doing is running around the house, throwing his hands in the air. But he takes his sled and goes down the stairs and out the front door and jumps something in the snow. And they did slow motion capture, and caught him on this sled, slow motion, like whoa, when really, like, I could see, I'm like, wow, that was like a very, woo, it was very uneventful, but they went out of their way to make it something special. And I was just thinking, geez, this hit way different when I was a kid, but it was a good movie though. It was very good. It was very good. It had that guy from Escape from Alcatraz in it, with as the old man. It was an awesome movie, and it was an awesome time to grow up as a kid. I must say. I must say. I was born in '90, so it was a great childhood. And lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff from it. But anyway, this one, I'm trying to get them shorter and shorter. I used to have it down to where I could keep it under 20 minutes, but that's a little tougher. I got to get back in the habit. But anyway, hope y'all have been having a good weekend. I hope you guys. I hope y'all have a good evening and good Sunday and whatnot. Till next time. Over and out. You guys have a good weekend.